Hello and welcome to episode 321 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDad FF. He is back, fresh from Miami, here to talk about, all of your free agent winners. This week was absolutely wild, Snoog. We saw so many guys change hands. We saw so many situations where in this particular class, there's going to be openings. How was your time in Miami? And welcome back to the show, brother.
Yeah, it was awesome. Warm weather. We don't get that much around here, especially for probably till May, June. But the warm weather, we were absolutely slaying fish down there, monster fish all week long. So me and my buddy, we crushed it down there. But it feels good to be back. The free agent frenzy was going on while we were down there. So there's a lot I need to do for catching up. But just looking through our notes, look at the recaps and stuff like that. I'm really excited for this list of guys that we're going to be talking about because I think there's a lot of winners here. And we're going to start with a bang right away with T. Higgins when we jump into him. But, man, we saw that news come in late last night. I'm excited for that one mainly. So let's jump into it.
Yeah, there's so many guys changed hands, so we're here to try to help you out with that. The first one, and we've referenced it a little bit before, is we knew that there were rumors of T. Higgins going to the Patriots, T. Higgins going to this team, that team. I think in Dynasty, T. Higgins gets a massive bump here. I mean, he signs a 4-year deal, $115 million to stay with Cincinnati, one of the top three offenses in the NFL. There are no more rumors. He's tied to Joe Burrow for the next 4 years, as is Jamar Chase. I mean, the fact that they inked both of them up for 4-year deals is fantastic for Burrow stock and for T. Higgins. But when you look at T. Higgins last year, excluding week 18, he was the wide receiver 2 behind only Jamar Chase in fantasy. I mean, that's just wild. You look at what he did, 18.5 fantasy points per game, 10.3 targets, over 8 receptions, over 92 yards, 26.7% target share. It's time to rinse, repeat, and get this going again in 2025 because I feel like as long as he's healthy, him and Chase are both going to be top 12 wide receivers for the 2025 season. And we're going to talk about how high up Higgins really goes in our rankings. But tell me a little bit about how exciting this is for you to have T. Higgins tied to Joe Burrow for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at what they did last year together, newsflash, the defense still sucks. They still have a team that is going to need to throw the ball 45 times because they're going to let up 30 points a game. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase are all going to put up historic numbers again. T. Higgins is a guy that could squeeze into that top 5 to 10 range with a full 17-game pace. And you obviously have Jamar Chase there, but Burrow's going to be throwing for 350 yards a game and 45 attempts. So things get better because I don't think there's a situation T. Higgins could have gotten that would have been better because he's still going to get 150 targets, 1,200 to 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns. Like, this is a guy that can do it all when he's healthy, one of the best players on the field, one of the best, if not the best, number 2 receiver in the NFL. So I really like T. Higgins. I was already super high on him. I'm even more high on him now. He right after our cornerstone guys that we're talking about, and then you slide in Ted McMillan into that range. He's like the next guy right there with like Rashee Rice for me in that like 15 to 16 range. And he's probably going to outscore a couple of the guys above him. Like I could see him outscoring a Drake London. I can see him outscoring a Garrett Wilson, those type of guys just because of the situation he's in. I'm all in for T. Higgins in 2025.
Yeah, I have him also as wide receiver 16, in that 104 to 105 range in a rookie pick equivalent. But at this point, Snoog, I'm taking T. Higgins over the 104, 105 in this class. I'm smashing it right now because I feel like you're going to see guys like T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore. We always talk about foundational wide receivers, right? We have those guys that are young. They're under 25. They're going to continue to produce. But then you talk about these guys who are 25, 26, 27, 28, that you're going to see them in the prime for the next 2 to 3 years. And I think T. Higgins in this 4-year deal with the Bengals, I am now trying to tier off. I'm trying to tier down off of some of these guys above. If I can get, Drake London for T. Higgins plus, Ladd, Marv, Garrett, A.J. Brown, any of those guys, I want T. Higgins plus right now because I'm that bullish on what we're about to see, where a lot of times in the last few years with T. Higgins, I've almost been like, he's on the franchise tag, and I don't think he's motivated to go out and play injured. Now he's on a team that he wants to win the Super Bowl. I'm super excited with T. Higgins. What's been cool about this entire free agent process, and I know you were in Miami, but we've been updating in the Discord, and I put the link down there below, patreon.com/smashaccept. you guys have an opportunity when you guys join that. We were updating every single player. So it's like, ooh, T. Higgins re-signed. What's he doing? And then I changed him in my rankings. Ooh, Justin Fields is to the Jets. What's he going to do? Every single guy, as that happened, we were updating on there. We're updating, rookie pick equivalents, rookie drafts, the guides coming out. I mean, we have so many things at Smash, except you guys have, this past year, we are the fastest growing Dynasty Discord, period. And we have been growing exponentially. It's been awesome to see. And guys just keep joining. And they keep saying, my friend is saying, you got to get in here. This is where you guys want to be. So we're excited. Thank you very much for all the support. Snoog, let's jump into some trades here, because T. Higgins value should be, like we said, in that 104 range now. Let's pick on some trades here. And why don't you kick a couple of them over my way, see what we're thinking.
Yeah, so right away, I'm seeing a lot of T. Higgins for a first and a second, T. Higgins for a first, T. Higgins for a first and a third, T. Higgins for a first and 2/3. That's where I'm trying to be buying him at right now. Like, I'm trying to stay in that range. Absolutely love that. I'm going to throw a couple curveballs at you, Dad, because I know we don't like to go that far back off of a Malik Neighbors or off of those cornerstone type elite guys that could be first-round starter picks. But this guy landed T. Higgins, a 25 first and a 27 first and a second for Malik Neighbors and Najee Harris. Najee Harris in the second cancel out. Are you tearing off Neighbors for T. Higgins and 2 firsts?
So here's something where everyone in Dynasty, I know everyone in Dynasty is starting to get sharper and sharper. And what you and I try to do is we try to get out ahead of that curve, right? So everybody, your buys and your sells, everybody's out there putting that. They're starting to understand the market a little bit better. Now I'm starting to think, you know what I mean? You got a guy like Malik Neighbors, who is a cornerstone asset, unbelievable player. But on a week-to-week basis, T. Higgins is going to put up similar type numbers. If you're giving me 2 firsts, if you're giving me a 25 first, which I'm assuming is mid to early, and a 27 first, with the way that 27 class is, the gap between the guys at the top is not 2 firsts to T. Higgins anymore. Like, outside of Chase, Jefferson, maybe Neighbors, it's not even close. I mean, if you give me CeeDee Lamb plus 2 firsts, if you give me an early first plus Amon-Ra plus Puka plus Brian Thomas Jr., that gap is closed, and T. Higgins is a major buy that a lot of people in Dynasty are just going to be like, well, you know what? He's 26. I'm not. He's going to turn 26. I'm not interested. I'm buying.
It looks like you can get him for about first and a second, or first and a pair thirds, or you can do something like Amon-Ra St. Brown and T. Higgins for Chase. I like that one as well. That's a good 2-for-1 type deal. But what I really like and that I want to hit on is getting out of those mid running backs that are skyrocketed in value right now and absolutely inflated for no reason. Kyron Williams, James Cook, Chase Brown, turn those guys into T. Higgins, Rashee Rice, AJ Brown, and add a second on Kyron, add an early second, whatever it is that you need to do. Get off those guys and go get these elite younger wide receivers that have, 1, the ability to score more points than them straight up, and 2, they're a lot more secure with a big contract versus Chase Brown could literally lose all of his value next year if they draft the Quinshon Judkins, right? So that's the game we play, and that's the risk you take. Buy the wide receivers.
Yeah, and you and I have probably done 100 roster reviews in the last month, and that's something I'm saying on like every single one of them is moves like this here where Sean Wright says traded Josh Jacobs for T. Higgins straight up. I've been happy with this move. He's locked in. I don't think you're going to get that anymore. But what I've been trying to do in all of these, roster reviews is I'm taking Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey. I'm taking these running backs that are in that middling area, and I'm trying to get a wide receiver who's going to have better longevity, arguably better success, that they're going to put themselves into position to absolutely smash. I love when you guys comment from YouTube. Smooth Criminal Entertainment says, good morning, fellas. Guys, we passed 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's a big milestone. Shout out to what Brock Dynasty has done. Shout out to you guys for really supporting us. And we appreciate that. And our goal is to, hit up to 5,000 before the season. I think we're going to get there considerably before that. But you guys keep coming out. We appreciate all the support. Remember, every Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, we do our trade show, and every Wednesday we do a mock show. I'm excited for those 2 shows that we have planned, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys are ready to go on that. Then, exactly. The next one here, Snoog, and you and I
My
love this
favorite,
because
right
we
here.
have so many shares, right? Like if you look at a league, right? I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, I gotta get more Davante Adams. And I'm like, oh, I own him in every single league. You know, because
Yeah,
you and
same.
I last year were pounding the drum, and you and I operate the same way. It's like as soon as this happened, we're like, all right, let's get some more shares. Oh, we have all the shares. But when you look at Davante Adams, what he has produced with some of the worst quarterback play over the last 4 seasons. I mean, he's had 3 seasons with the Raiders where he had 220 receptions, 2,869 yards, 23 touchdowns with the likes of Gardner Minshew throwing him the ball. You know what I mean? Again, and Jimmy
Derek
Garoppolo.
Carr, Aiden
It
O'Connell.
gross. Then he goes to the Jets, and the ghost of Aaron Rodgers supported him for 11 games, 67 receptions, 850 yards, 7 touchdowns. Now he goes to the Rams with Matthew Stafford,
Oh my God.
Sean McVay, and now you talk about alongside of Puka Nacua. I expect the top 12 to 15 season,
Easily.
even where he's at.
Easy.
And this is why I'm so excited. I'm so bullish on him. I have moved him up. And we talk about veterans shouldn't gain value. I would pay the 201 to 204 for him now, or 203 even. Like you're probably not going to have to once we start pulling up some of these trades. But dude, how excited. We talked about this last year, and then all of a sudden, you know, we saw Kamara, we saw Mixon, we saw Adams, we saw Evans. We're like, buy him. I'm not selling him now. You know, a lot of people are like, hey, let's start flipping. No, I'm Davante Adams career arc. He's going to dominate for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I was sitting by the pool with a couple tequila sodas down the gullet when I got this news. And let's just say fists were pumping in the air. I was very excited because Davante Adams, one of my favorite wide receivers ever. 2, I still believe he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL when he's healthy, when he's good to go, when he's playing with a quarterback he's in rhythm with. Matt Stafford is a fantasy football machine for his wide receivers. Same with that Sean McVay offense. He's literally a better Cooper Kupp, more physical, better route runner, better separator, better player, can win downfield better. He plays a lot kind of like a Puka Nacua, but he's a better route runner. He's the perfect complement to Puka, and I think they're both going to have really, really good years. I think Davante Adams is going to be an absolute touchdown magnet in this offense. Sean McVay is going to have a field day designing, drawing up plays, getting creative with him and his route running nuance and the way he can play the game. High-end vet, high IQ player, good teammate, everything you want. Bread and butter matchup made in heaven. We finally got it. Let's jump into some trades here. Yeah.
But even before we do that,
I don't even care. I'll still get Adams. It's fine.
Ryan James is saying, here's the $1 million question. If you already rostered Puka, are you still going to trade for Davante Adams? And my answer is yes. So Davante Adams in the Cooper Kupp role. Let's look at 2023, okay? Because 2024, Cooper Kupp was injured most of the year. 2023, Puka was the wide receiver 1 with 9.2 targets, 87.4 yards per game, and 17.6 fantasy points. Cooper Kupp, and he was not what Davante Adams is. Let's just be honest. In 2023, Davante Adams is another level of what Cooper Kupp is. 7.91 targets, 61 yards, 13.6 fantasy points per game. That is Davante Adams' floor. Like, there's no way he doesn't out-surpass us. And Jack Donahue was like, does this affect Puka's value? Again, the answer is no. My instant reaction to this after I posted all that was I wrote, buy Puka Nacua right now. Because for a year or two, they might have that closer role where they're in there. But you just got yourself an opportunity to get a foundational wide receiver cheaper because of Puka Nacua coming to, or because of Davante Adams coming there. Now let's pull up some of these trades. And, I actually have a couple that I wanted to throw your way because you hit me up with the last one. Some of these seem like they're really the way to go, Snoog. I mean, a 25 second and a 27 third. Smash that all day. Go ahead and go get Davante Adams. I see another one here, 25 second and 2/3. Smash. How about like this 26 second and Sean Tucker for Davante Adams? Who's trading for Sean Tucker these days? How about this one? Davante Adams or Cooper Kupp and a 26 and 27 third?
It's Adams by a mile. Like, Kupp couldn't even hold Adams' jockstrap. Like, not even close. Cooper Kupp is in a good situation with where he is, I think, and I think he'll be a good value for what he's going to be going for with the injuries and all that good stuff and where you can get him. But Davante Adams has legit top 10 to 12 upside. I'm paying the 26 and 27 second. I'm paying that all day long. I'm not paying a first. I'm not paying 201 and 202, but I would pay like 205 and 210 or 206 and 209 or 207 and 212. Like 2 mid to late seconds is what I'm looking to pay. You don't have to overpay for a 32-year-old vet. You don't have to, especially right now. During the season, you'll have to. During the season, when he's dropping 17.5 fantasy points per game, you'll probably get a 26 first for him. That's the game we play. That's how you got to attack the offseason. Buy into him right now. Like, there's no better situation he could have went to. This is an offense that, even if Stafford only throws for 4,000 yards, the targets are very concentrated through specific players. Puka Nacua, Davante Adams. Nobody else is touching the football.
Yeah, and I mean, you're saying don't. I say the value is 201 to 203. That doesn't mean you're paying that. That's just the equivalent of that value. You got to, in Dynasty, figure out different ways. How about Chuba Hubbard or Davante Adams in a 26th third?
That's close.
That's about right.
Yeah, that's about market value, I think. Like, that's like if you need the wide receiver, I'd probably just prefer Chuba, but I don't know. Like, they could both be good for the same amount of time. That's how volatile that running back position can be when you are a Chuba Hubbard, right? When you're not a Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, CMC, you could have a 2 to 3 year career where you're at the top, or when you're one of the best, right? For running back. So Adams, man, he's gonna give me a realistic stat line you think he hits. I'll give you mine first. I think 1,200, 12 touchdowns, 75 to 80 receptions is what I was
maybe
gonna like say 1150, but
80, 1108 at least.
Like,
you know what I mean? Now, here's an interesting thing and a lot of you guys are really just jumping in here asking trades. Save those trades for the Tuesday, Wednesday show. You know, Snoog and I try to answer as many as we can. If they pertain to the show, it's a lot easier. But just wanted to throw that out there. So I again am trying to rethink outside the box. I'm trying to look at, you and I have been saying that we're trying to take the Chris Olaves, the Zay Flowers, the Jordan Addisons, the DK Metcalfs, and tier up. Why not tier down to Davante Adams? Like, if you're in a spot, what is Zay Flowers going to do for you this year? Where if you can give up Zay in a late second and get Davante Adams in a first, would you be interested in those kind of things?
Yes.
Like, I feel like you're not going to get Davante and a first for those players, but honestly, the amount of production you're going to get in comparison for George Pickens, for Jameson Williams, Jalen Waddle, you know, Zay Flowers, Chris Olave, I'm going ahead and I'm tearing down. You know, like, go ahead and kick the tires. Even though what you could start out with is a 25-1-2 flop, but then you probably end up getting it back to, you know, where you give a guy Zay Flowers in the 212 for Davante Adams in a 26 first, a 27 first. And I think that's really in that realm of possibilities where you're getting the production of the player and then you're getting an insulation of the pick.
Yep, I agree. That's a good move there.
Yeah, so that's our second one. There's a little bit of a drop off after that. I mean, we really love what we saw from T. Higgins. We saw with Davante Adams. The third one's interesting for me. The third one is, I'm looking at it, and I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And this is a player I've always really liked. But DK Metcalf has really produced with efficiency and minimal targets over the past several years. In 2020, he had 17.0 fantasy points per game as the wide receiver 7. 2021, he was a wide receiver 14 with 14.4. 2022, wide receiver 16. 2023, wide receiver 21. Now we change the offensive system around, right? We get rid, and now in 2024, before his injury, he was at 15.1 fantasy points per game at wide receiver 11. So we know that the Shane Waldron effect is what really held back JSN. It held back Metcalf. Metcalf was on pace to be the wide receiver 11. When he came back, he was a shell of what he was. But in his time in Seattle, averaged between 7.2 and 8.4 targets per game. Now he goes to the Steelers. There's an opportunity here where, one, I'm really hoping this. I want Jackson Dart to go to the Steelers. They need a big arm to go with Pickens and Metcalf. There's an opportunity that Pickens might get traded for a second. There's a lot of real opportunities here for DK Metcalf. I mean, DK Metcalf with Jackson Dart, that's sexy. Because he needs somebody to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm going to be honest. I don't love this spot at all for DK. Arthur Smith, Mike Tomlin, run heavy approach, 0 quarterback at the moment. Playing with George Pickens, and they're both literally so similar. Like, they're like a 5 to 6 catch guy. They get that big touchdown or that big catch. dominant at the catch point. They both really need a situation that they're not in. Like they need to go to the Bills and play with Josh Allen or Justin Herbert and the Chargers, one of those teams with a gunslinger that Jordan Love and the Packers. Like I don't know how this is going to work out fantasy wise for these two. They're great wide receivers. I think they're both super talented. I really would have loved to see DK go to the Pats with Drake May or to the Panthers with Bryce Young. Like the Steelers, man, anything with Arthur Smith's name on it, I really want nothing to do with it. Like we saw how good George Pickens was at times last year, and then they just wouldn't throw the football at all. It's like it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So if Russell Wilson comes back, I think it's good for DK. Because I think that connection, that chemistry, that deep ball with Russ to DK will come back into play. But to me, yeah, exactly. As Steelers fans, I would be happy personally because I think it's a really good move for the Steelers offense. I think for fantasy football, though, it's not. So if I have DK, I'm getting rid of him. I want Davante Adams plus. I want Mike Evans plus. I want to go up and go get Devontae Smith or Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle plus. Like, get him off your team because I really don't think this is going to work out like we would like it to. But you never know. If they get Jackson Dart, it could play out.
Well, and that's the thing. Everybody's talking. I'm really pushing on zigging while they're zagging because everybody keeps talking about all these different things of selling DK Metcalf. And I think if they get Jackson Dart, there's a lot of upside there. But look at some of these trades, Snoop. Josh Downs and Raheem Shaheed to DK Metcalf. You know, like,
that's what I was gonna say. If I can take a Ricky Pearsall, a Josh Downs, a Jameson Williams, those mid-tier guys that like are never gonna be great in fantasy football, and I can just package those guys up and go get a DK or go get someone like that, I would do it. But like I don't know if I'm tearing off you see McMillan in a second here. I'm smashing that for DK as well. Like I think he's valued right on the same board with Addison, even though I think he has a much higher ceiling than Jordan Addison does.
Who would you rather have out of those two?
DK.
I would too. I have my rankings.
I also
Addison
don't
higher,
like Jordan
so
Addison.
But you're looking here, a pair of 25 seconds. You know, we're looking at some of these are just wild. Like they just blow my mind. Josh Downs straight up. Like that is not a deal you're making. So in your leagues, look at guys that overreact. Here's an interesting one. Nico Collins and Jaden Reed or DK Metcalf in a mid-25 first.
I'm taking Nico.
Yeah, I am too, but it's not that far off. You know what I think? How about Devon Achane and Davante Adams or DK Metcalf and a 27 first and second?
I would take Achane there.
That's really close though. If that
it is.
Could be
There's some good moves here. This is what I like. Like Keon a first and a second for DK and a first. And that's probably a pick swap. So like something like that is what I would want to do. Like tier up from a Coleman to a Metcalf big time and use a second. But I mean, like DK and Warren for James Cook. Like I think I'm taking James Cook over that.
Yeah, I'm taking Cook. The one above that I want to point out is DK Metcalf and Michael Penix Jr. from Marvin Harrison Jr. Guys like DK Metcalf, I don't want to sell for a random pick because he could pop off and really regain value. But if you take DK Metcalf and you add him to Michael Penix Jr. to get to Marvin Harrison Jr., now all of a sudden that's a win because Marvin's going to go up in value. And I think that's the way in Dynasty when you have a guy, and I get this all the time. People are like, what should I sell Justin Fields for? What should I sell DK Metcalf for? What should I sell Anthony Richardson for? If a guy has a lot of upside to increase in value, and we're not talking about like Christian Kirk, you're like, okay, this deal's not going to affect you. But if you trade Anthony Richardson, Justin Fields, DK Metcalf for a pick equivalent and they pop off, you're screwed. If you use them to tier up to something, and that's why in Dynasty it's so much, we talk about minimizing risk and maximizing return, taking those guys, tiering up with a pick, right? Adding the 109 to DK Metcalf and moving yourself up to T. Higgins and a James Conner. You know, you move yourself into an area where you're going to get something much, much better. Couple other wide receivers here before we move into the running backs. Chris Godwin back to Tampa Bay. I love that for him. That's an ideal landing spot. Christian Kirk to the Texans. I really like this for Stroud, a security blanket over the last, 2022 and 23. He was somewhere between 13.3 and 14.2 fantasy points per game, which was in the top 15 range. So I think that gives him a security blanket. Yep. The one that everybody else is asking me about right now, Snoog, is Cooper Kupp. So Cooper Kupp goes from an offense that has a brilliant head coach, an offense tied to Matthew Stafford, an offense that is really set up to dominate at the wide receiver position, to now moving to Seattle, where he's already playing with the number one slot wide receiver in the league in Jackson Smith and Jigba. They're talking about trying to run, that Kubiak wide split where we're looking at these guys where the running backs are going to dominate. We know that Walker and Charbonnet are going to get a lot of play, but I wanted them to get a guy to stretch the field. With Cooper Kupp, they're not getting that. They're getting two guys to stay close to the line of scrimmage. And I think Cooper Kupp, as I'm going to pull up some stats here to talk about, how his separation over the last couple of years, but I am using this opportunity to sell Cooper Kupp wherever I can.
Yeah, I almost think Matthew Golden's in play for them still at 18 to get that elite field stretcher
that would help.
with some burner speed, because then, you could see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets with Kupp, JSN, and Matthew Golden there, but an option. It might not happen, but that is definitely still an option in play. Probably not, because they did bring in Kupp. They're probably going to build out somewhere else, but interesting. I don't love the landing spot, but he was already dirt cheap with the Rams, and people already didn't want him. So it's now people don't even want him even more. So it's go throw out a couple thirds for him. If you look at some trades, if you pull him up here real quick, it's Nick Chubb in a third for Cooper Kupp. Yeah. Kupp in a second for Tyrone Tracy. Kupp in a third for a second. He's cheap. It's that's what you're looking for in those type of deals. So.
And Cooper Kupp, I wanted to talk real quick about his separation. Is in 2021, he was 15th out of 160 wide receivers in his ability to get open, his separation skills. 2022, he was 71st out of 150. So he goes from 15 to 20 down to 71. All kinds of injuries for Cooper Kupp in these seasons. Now you're talking 2023, 102nd out of 153 wide receivers. And Snoog, just don't throw up here. 141st out of 159 wide receivers. He was the bottom of the NFL in separation. And what ways does Cooper Kupp win? He's not an elite athlete. He's not a contested catch. He is a separator. If he separated in the bottom 10% of the league, exactly. Well, on the opposite end of that, man, Keenan Allen is a separator, but I had pulled up the same. 2021, 17th out of 118. 2022, 30th. 2023, number 1 overall. And even last year, at his advanced age, was in the middle of the pack, 51 out of 116. Cooper Kupp is in the absolute bottom. So if you could sell Cooper Kupp and a third for Keenan and a second, I would do that all day, because Keenan Allen's dynasty value is way below.
He's going back to the Chargers.
I know.
That's what I guarantee.
I have a post ready for it as soon as it happens, because I've had it those separation things just sitting there, because I'm this is what's going to happen. This makes the most sense. Speaking of making sense, let's talk real quick here about the quarterback position. All right. Now we're talking, we have Sam Darnold goes to Seattle. I love it because JJ McCarthy is the starter for the Vikings. JJ McCarthy, I've been pounding the drum for him to start for a long time. His value is going to skyrocket. A lot of people are saying, they value him as the 102 in this class, which is just, I know they value him over Shedeur Sanders, over Cam Ward, but that doesn't put him at the 102 in this class in actual trade value. But Sam Darnold, now you have an opportunity here where a lot of people were not buying or selling because they weren't quite sure what to do with Sam Darnold. Was he going to start? Is McCarthy going to start? Now we know he's the starter. We know he gets a 3-year deal where, he gets $100 million contract. So great for him. Is this good for fantasy? Are you trading Sam Darnold now? Because his value still is in that 111 to 201 range.
Yeah, if I can get that for him, I'd sell him, because I can get Matthew Stafford, who's probably going to be as good for equally as long for much cheaper, or a Geno or someone along those lines. But he definitely takes a hit in value, because he goes from a much better offense to a much worse offense. He really does. People can say it's not, but it is. He's going from playing with the best wide receiver in the NFL and 2 other studs and a mastermind offensive-minded head coach to the Seahawks with a poorer offensive line. JSN and Kupp are great weapons, but Kenneth Walker's a great weapon, but they just don't have the coaching staff. Kubiak's a good offensive mind, but there's no KOC there. So we don't even know what Darnold's going to be like in Seattle. Maybe the offense isn't built to his skill set. We'll have to see how that works out. But if I can get a first for him, sign me up all day. I don't care what the first is. Yeah.
Any year, 26, 27, even if it's late, I'm in on that, because I think you might have to get creative, and I'm looking at some trades here where it was like, you get a 25 first and Jalen Wright, who, by the way, is another winner in free agency with Raheem Mostert leaving. I think Jalen Wright being in
pull
Miami.
Some trades up.
We got that where this one's Jalen Wright and a 25 first or Kupp, Najee, Darnold. I think you're going to have to get creative with Darnold. You're going to have to package something for it. I see a half PPR, Darnold straight up for Ayuk. Give me Ayuk there all day. I am smashing that. Jacobs for Darnold and a third. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I think if I could buy him for a pair of seconds, if I was really QB needy, but if that's the case, I'm not doing it. I'm just paying 1 second for Geno, because that's the guy that I really want to talk about here.
I was just going to say, what do you think about this one? Geno and Judy for Darnold, then a third. Like, that's a smash for the Darnold or for the Geno and Judy side.
You and I have always been a little bit
Hubbard.
bigger. I own 0 shares of Darnold. I will still own 0 shares of Darnold. And I will invest in Geno Smith, because Geno Smith now goes from Seattle, which was a nice situation, to the Raiders. And again, provides his longevity. I think he just like Darnold, the only reason their stocks would go up is they might move from a better situation, but now they move to a spot where they're going to have more longevity. Geno gets Bowers. Let's hear it.
The Raiders draft Tet McMillan at 6. They take Quinshad Judkins at pick 39. Geno Smith with Tet, Brock Bowers, Quinshad Judkins, Pete Carroll, and that Chip Kelly offense. He's going to put up some damn good numbers in that offense with a coach that already brought him alive from the dead. That's honestly a really good situation with the draft capital, the free agent money that they have to spend. Like, the Raiders are going to be pretty good this year. Like, that AFC West division is getting a lot better quick. Like, Chargers and Raiders and Broncos, like, they all have money to spend. They all have good draft capital. Like, they're going to start churning good picks into good players and free agent bucks into good players. They're going to make a little bit of a run in that division. I think it's going to be more competitive than it's been.
I know we have a lot of free agents we want to talk about. We hit the quarterback there. The most exciting one for me is Justin Fields. Fields goes to the Jets. Fields reunites with Garrett Wilson, where, again, the last time Fields had a legit wide receiver, it was DJ Moore, who had 96, 1,308. Garrett Wilson, go buy him. I know everybody keeps saying, Dad, Snoog, why you keep saying buy Garrett Wilson? Because he's that damn good. But Justin Fields gets borderline starter money, right? 2 years, $30 million. So $15 million isn't like, hey, we're going overboard, we're investing. But he was the QB9 in fantasy. And I think he does just enough, like, wins and loss records to stay on the field. But for Dynasty, we were holding him. Now you have an opportunity here where we just said it with Darnold. If you had a late 26 or 27 first and you needed that quarterback, now I would buy Justin Fields. I would not buy Sam Darnold, but I would buy Justin Fields. I would flip Darnold straight up for Fields if I could, because Justin Fields gives you the upside where Sam Darnold last year with the Vikings, that's an amazing situation, amazing season, but that's his ceiling. With the Seattle, he's not a guy, he's a system quarterback. He's not going to make everybody around him better.
He's not.
He's going to be QB 15 to 24 this year. Justin Fields, as long as he is on the field, no pun intended, is top 10, top 12. He is going to put up those numbers. Could he possibly lose his job? Absolutely. I think the Jets still
I don't think so,
someone
though.
there.
What if they don't draft someone? Who's taking his job? Like, there's nobody. Tyrod Taylor, like, they're gonna start Fields for a full 17 games if they don't get a quarterback at 7. And I firmly believe that.
When we've seen him as a starter, he's been a top 12 fantasy quarterback. It's been ugly, but I think a lot of trades I'm seeing right now is just like, who would you rather have, Justin Fields or Anthony Richardson at this point?
I'd take Richardson, but it's close.
I would too, but it's close.
Back to back.
I saw a trade in the Discord yesterday. It was like Richardson 112 or Fields 201. You're like, I'm not sure. I think Fields is at least guaranteed, where Anthony Richardson, now that they brought in Daniel Jones, which is a low-key signing, I think Richardson starts, but that's a better, competent number 2 ready to go as soon as he's there. So we got to hit real quick on running backs because we wanted to hit as many as possible. We got excited talking about the wide receivers. Snoog and I usually get excited talking about the running backs. The first guy for me, and we'll go real quick. I'll go one, you go one. We'll go back and forth. For me, the biggest winner for me is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, now that Jordan Mason signs with the Vikings, 2 years, $7 million. That is not starter money. That is backup money. Jordan Mason gets traded for, and now the Vikings are out of the race to add Caleb Johnson, to add Quinshon Judkins, to add Travion Henderson, because they are in a spot now. They've gone out and they've committed to this.
I still think they could. I still think they very easily could take one of those guys. I really do, because I still think Jordan Mason's being drafted as their backup. Aaron Jones has a chance of being kicked to the curb. I think that's still in play. If they land one of those guys, I could see him cutting Aaron Jones right away.
They just signed him to a 2-year deal. I know you've been on vacation for a while, but they just signed him to a 2-year deal. They would cut all of that.
He's bad. He's not good anymore. That's my thing with him. Like, is he a guy that you're going to confidently roll out as your starting running back at this point?
In fantasy, I'm doing it every single week.
As KOC with a running back class this deep, I just think of who their backups were last year. It was Ty Chandler and the ghost of Cam Akers. And Aaron Jones missed a bunch of games, so they had to play. So I think that Jordan Mason was just a cheap signing for depth, and that the real starting running back hasn't been added yet. That's my opinion on it, but
I'm completely out on that because Aaron Jones had 1,500 yards last year. Anybody that says Aaron Jones was bad last year, he had 4.6 yards per carry and 1,500 yards. You look at 51 receptions. How many guys in the NFL had 51 receptions at the running back position? Like that's, I know you're not a Jones guy, so I'm not crapping on that. But over the last 5 years, 49, 47, 52, 59, 46, 51 receptions. That is a staple of consistency of what we're trying to do here. Is like, and you can get him for the 207, 208, even 209 range, where I am all in on that. I get it. If you're not there, I wanted the Vikings to take a stud to go alongside of him, but I think the Jordan Mason signing, they traded for him. They gave up picks to get him and sign him. I think that means they're going to probably steer off. What do you think about the other big signing here, Najee Harris to the Chargers?
Yeah, I love it. I think he screams Jim Harbaugh, and with that offense and what they're trying to do, just a big brute runner between the tackles, can handle a 25 to 30 touches a game type workload. He's a guy that's had 3 straight seasons with 1,000+ yards, and if you look at that Chargers offensive line, it is built up. It is absolutely phenomenal. It made J.K. Dobbins look good last year. Najee's better than J.K. Dobbins. Newsflash. He's not the prettiest guy on the field, but he can catch the ball well. He's going to catch 50 to 60 passes. This is all if they don't draft someone. I think they're probably going to bring somebody in, but they're really trying to build that run game and give Justin Herbert flexibility and take some weight off his shoulders. I think Najee Harris is that guy. They brought him in cheap. He's going to get a majority of the touches, even if they bring in maybe it's a Dylan Sampson or DJ Giddens or one of these guys on early day 3 to be like that speed, elusive pass catcher. Najee's just going to play that Gus Edwards, Dave Montgomery role in LA and just pound the ball between the tackles down on the red zone. So I like it. If I had Najee Harris, I'm pumped with that. I'm not selling him because you probably can't get anything for him other than like a second still, rather just hold him for depth at that point. But
yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I was super excited because I'm like, all right, this is an opportunity for him. Then I saw the actual contract. The contract is backup money, so they will likely be drafting another guy. So I think this is your sell window if you can tier up. If you can do Najee in a second for any first, I would do that. I think Najee, I sold him for Brandon Ayuk in Smash Accept 6, and I was like, all right, I'll take that all day long. You know, like you're going to have to tier up.
I think it kisses away. Remember how we were talking about Judkins, Hampton, those type of guys going? I think that kisses away the Chargers taking one of them now. I think if they take a running back high, it's going to be Travion Henderson because it just makes too much sense with the skill sets. I think you don't sign a Najee to go get a Hampton, or you don't sign a Najee to go get a Judkins.
They paid him the same as Jordan Mason. Like he's not getting real money. He's getting incentive money where he's getting $4 million. So like this is what's going to be really great. And you and I are going to talk about the running backs here soon. Is the rookie running backs. They're here to replace guys. We're just trying to speculate who might not get replaced. A guy who I think has now become a lot safer and I'm buying is Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, now that they're the Panthers, they drafted Brooks last year. Now they go out and sign Rico Dowdle, and they go and they the offensive line has improved. They have a nice 1-2 punch where Rico Dowdle last year, actually down the stretch of the last 6 games of the year, was a top 12 running back. He was, number 1, I believe, in juke rate. Like, he actually played really well down the stretch. There's zero chance that the Panthers go invest in one of those top level running backs. Mm-hmm. This class is very deep, though. Could they get a DJ Giddens? Could they get a Taj Brooks? Could they get somebody that goes late here? Absolutely. But I think Chuba Hubbard has become a little bit safer. Any other running backs here who you're buying? There's Jalen Warren's increased a little bit, Jalen Wright, Jordan Mason, AJ Dillon, Isaac Garendo, Marshawn Lloyd. There's a lot of guys. For me, also, if DeAndre Swift avoids a rookie coming in, that offensive line for Chicago is beastly now. Like, Caleb Williams to the moon. But if DeAndre Swift doesn't see a major competitor, he could really increase in value as well.
Yeah, him, and keeping things on par with that 2021 running back class, Chuba Hubbard, Najee Harris. Let's talk about Javonte Williams before we finish off here with the only tight end that got a boost in value. But Javonte Williams was a guy once viewed as the Dynasty RB2 overall. I hated that. I never liked him like that. I never thought he was that good. I always thought he was overvalued. I never owned him. But now we're getting to a point where he's damn near worth nothing. And he just got a contract with the Cowboys. I haven't even looked at what the money is. It's probably dirt cheap money, probably backup money. It's backup money. It's a prove it type contract, right? Can you stay healthy? Can you be the guy? They let Rico Dowdle walk. If the Cowboys decide to get cheap at running back, I could see them going and getting Dylan Sampson, DJ Giddens, one of these type round 4, late round 3 type players, Ollie Gordon, one of those guys, and having them come in. They're not ready yet. And Javonte somehow ends up being the guy for a bit. And if he does well in that role, he could be the guy for the Cowboys. So, I mean, it's hypotheticals. It's 50-50. It's flip a coin, but it's worth it for how cheap you can get him for. Throw a third out there and see if you can snag him. I'm not paying a second, but if I can get him for a third, I would sell for a second. So there's always context needed. But whenever you see running backs go to those good situations or those good landing spots like that, like you want to take shots on them, especially when they were viewed at one point as a stud, right? Like Najee and Javonte were both top 3 dynasty running backs at one point. Travis Etienne, who's not a free agent yet, but I think if he was, Dad, I think he would have been getting a big contract in free agency because he's actually proved it. He's proved he could be one of the best running backs in the NFL. Javonte has it.
I think the Cowboys are that dynasty owner in your league who just draft a guy like 3 years ago and can't let go. The difference is Javonte signed for $3 million. Rico signed for $6 million. Rico was number 1 in the NFL over that final 6 games as yards after contact and 27 missed tackles. Javonte Williams was the bottom of the league in both of those categories. So I think this is just you're right. It's a prove it deal. If you believed in Javonte before, now you can get him for free during your rookie draft. There's no way the Cowboys don't. We said this last year, but there's no way they don't draft a running back. Cowboys are now one of the premier landing spots because of the other free agent signing. Last one, Evan Engram. Evan Engram is the joker for Sean Payton now. I love this for Evan Engram. I think Evan Engram has gone up from, I was buying him for late seconds, early thirds to he's moved up to mid-second type value. I mean, I think there is a zero chance that he doesn't, if he's healthy, doesn't finish as a top 12 tight end this year.
Yeah. I think that kind of boots out Colston Loveland love that we were hoping for in that range. I also think now that it brings Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, Amarian Hampton, Quinshad Judkins, Travion Henderson, one of those guys big time into play. Like, I think that we could really line that up to be a thing for the Broncos. So I think that's a win-win for us. I think it's a win for Evan Engram, guy that's going to be a safety blanket for Bo Nix. He's going to probably get 100-plus targets in year 1. But we're also going to get one of our favorite running backs to go land there in the top. I could see the Broncos trading back from pick 21 or pick 20, going to like pick 32 to 35 and taking a Hampton, a Judkins, a Henderson type player because teams are going to move around in the draft. But I'm excited. It's looking real good. I'll kick it to you for the outro.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we're looking at now with some of these free agents is, did it leave openings for the rookies coming in? Because what we say every year is, we want these guys to go to ideal landing spots. They're not going to all go where we want them to go, but we hope they do. If you want to talk rookies, if you want to talk trades, no better place to do it in the Smash Accept Discord via Patreon. You pay on the Patreon, we'll set you up. We'll send you a link to the Discord. Right now is the best time to do it because you're going to crush your rookie drafts with all the content in
link in both of our bios.
We got you. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process. Let's talk rookies.